Okay.
Please say it out loud.
Yeah, say it out loud. So turn your left hand into a meeting place. Okay, now tell her to turn her left hand into a meeting place.
Turn your left hand into a meeting place.
Okay, check her hand, make sure it's right.
Is it right?
Okay. Raven will go around and check the room. Okay. Show everyone in the room what you're doing.
What's a meeting place?
Okay, your left hand. Okay, so watch. Got our palm flat. We take so first you set your palm out, then you put your thumb up, then you turn this into a step. Okay? Raven's going to check everyone's hands, make sure that everybody has those three parts. Will you tell me the three parts, Raven? What are the three parts?
That's the leader. That's food.
Yes.
That's the step.
That's right. Okay. So we've got those three parts. Go around and check, make sure everyone's got it, Raven. So
That's the food. That's the step.
check his hand.
Leader.
Check his hand and say what they are.
That's the leader.
You can touch his hand. You're okay. There you go.
That's the leader. And that's the step. That's the food.
Okay, good. Check Clay. Go check everyone's okay. It helps.
Nope.
She's like, not gonna do that.
No.
That's
That's more water for me to carry.
food.
There's some right here. Sick.
Thanks, Raven.
You get extra points. That's a baby's one.
Yeah, you could just shatter her dreams on her birthday.
Right. Okay. So these three elements. There is direction, or the right action. Okay. Action, leader, or right action.
Leader. Thumb is leader.
Is she done, Josh?
Yeah.
Raven.
Raven, do you want to go with? You're free. I think Raven did a good job. What do you guys think?
Oh, yeah, good job, Raven.
All right.
Love you. You're free. Okay.
Good job, Raven. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
See you later, bye.
Here is a meal conductor. There's a meal conductor. And that one, that's the same thing. Okay, really, leader is good. We can say, this sounds really dumb. They're like a conductor or a meal conductor. We don't have this really in modern times anymore. The kings would have, you could say that there's a head servant who do something like this. Okay, for now, the simplest words in English are step, a leader, and food. Very simply though, the step is actually a covering in order to ascend. Technically, the step is covering that enables a step up. Covering that enables you to step up. Okay? That might sound a little abstract. Hopefully, it will make sense as we work our way through this. But if you can memorize these three things, you will understand the foundational elements that God has in every space. Okay? A step, okay, a leader or a meal conductor, and food. Okay? Now, what I want us to, and it's really a means to cover, isn't it? It's a means to cover to take a step. It's clothing. So in the first, it's that, and it's that. Okay, let's change our wording here a little bit. We could say it is a step. That's good. But what the step symbolizes is you can't take the step without being appropriately clothed. You can't take a step without being appropriately clothed. So actually we could literally say food, a meal conductor or servant, probably a meal conductor or a meal servant. A conductor is probably a better word for now. Okay, so food.
So like a master of ceremonies?
It is something like a master of ceremonies. And that's what's so tricky about it. But by a master of ceremonies is like you would see in ancient with a wedding feast or something like this. What do we call these guys? There's a word for the people who arrange parties like this nowadays, but there's people who throw parties for a living. They oversee the throwing of a party for a living. But either way, so master of ceremonies is fine. All right, we've got food, that meal conductor, and then we have clothing in order to take part of the meal or in order to ascend. Appropriate clothing to ascend, to go on the step. Okay. when we consider, well, what are the steps? What is the journey? What is the course? These types of questions. We can zoom out and say, reality is like a staircase. Okay? The image of God is a staircase is probably another way to say that. And everything that reflects that image is themselves a staircase. This idea of ascending or going up. All right? This is behind the image of God. This is the pattern. Maybe there's a way to describe it. It's a pattern that informs this. So these are the elements. And then if we zoom out and say, okay, so it's a step. Here's an individual step. But individual steps lined up form a staircase, right? They form a ladder. They form it's a structure. Okay? This structure is the means that ascends. Each of these steps is itself a space. And in every one of these steps, you'll find these three elements. I'm going to start in the gut. I'll start in the courtyard for now. Okay? So, stuff, people, members, gut, heart, mind, conscience. This is basically everything that's yours. What's mine is mine, that kind of idea. This is what is entrusted to you. God, as the creator, okay, in the Torah, creator is also master. Creator is also master or owner, ba'al, or husband. It's helpful to know that in Hebrew, a word used for create is related to a word for purchase or own. Okay? God owns reality. Every imager is entrusted with what God owns. This is everything that every imager is entrusted with. Okay? You are not just entrusted with your body and your person. This is a big idea in the West. Okay? Easterners have an easier time understanding that they are entrusted with a family and a lineage and a collective. Okay? The Bible was written with that in mind. The ancient Israelites, they thought that they had duties within the context of the collective. They are not individualists. Okay? And stuff, context, is what's entrusted to you as well. This includes abstractions like resources and skills, but it also includes like the currency we all have, like time, okay, energy, space, all that stuff, okay. I want us to look at the image of God within the individual. I want us for now to start at the level of the individual before we move into the corporate, okay, or the other, I guess the lower steps. We could think of each step as a space. So stuff is a space that has these elements that can be rightly arranged. People are a space, okay, that has these elements that can be rightly arranged. Our members are a space wherein these elements can be rightly arranged. These are ideas, okay? So each step, right, you can see the pink, the green, the orange. Each step is a space, a stage, a context, a cosm, or a world, okay? Now the word stage is helpful. The word stage is helpful. Who has seen a Lego instruction manual before? Anybody seen a printed Lego instruction manual where you can, okay. In Lego instruction manuals, they will show you the steps to construct whatever object they're trying to construct. And you can literally, if you were to take a Lego manual and pull out each page, and let's say it didn't have front and back printing, and you were to put out 7 steps, and you were to join them, you're getting close to what the point of the tabernacle is. Okay? The ark would be the final step. It would be like, this is reality finished, completed, Shabbat. It'd be Shabbat, it'd be completion, fullness, this kind of thing. This is partly why it's helpful to think of each step as a stage. Okay? we can zoom out a little further, okay? And what is the staircase anyways? Well, the staircase is all your stuff. It's what's been entrusted to you. I said that. The staircase is a temple or a ziggurat, okay? A house, a structure. It's also a journey. It becomes figuratively, like metonymically, the act of stepping is the journey. What are we journeying towards? What is the course that we're on, and what is its destination? We've all been set on this journey without our permission. Okay? That means that's the same as I was created. I didn't ask to exist, and yet I do. So this is kind of that picture. Is everybody tracking so far? Yeah? Okay. I want to explain sin, okay? But before I explain, I want to try to explain sin within this context. But before I try to explain sin within this context, I want to talk about this idea of stages, okay? I want you to loosely think of the idea as we are passing testimony from one place to the next place. We're being entrusted with testimony. Okay? We're being entrusted with testimony, which is why I question. So that which is seen, that which is heard, that which is taken in, whatever. This is sensation. Okay? You could loosely correlate this with the stage of a newborn. Okay? You could say, if you wanted to talk about stages, you could say something like, you could say child. It's fine enough. Child, okay, somewhere between infant to child. So like, kind of where Avi is to a toddler-ish, whatever, child, whatever. We could correlate that to this space, which is the gut. We can correlate, and this is weird, it's like a household. So part of the reason there's this play on words that I'm about to lay out is because the word house in Hebrew, if I want to say, what is that building structure that you live in? I say, that's a beit. That's my beit, my house. And then I want to say, well, who's the family that occupy this space? Oh, that's my beit. Same word. The word for house is the word for family. It's metonymy. It's by saying, well, the people that live inside the building structure are always there, so they're my house, right? House of David, house of Saul, house of God, Bethel, Bethel. Okay, we are the house of God. We were built to be a Bethel. We are a complex unity by ourselves. Every human is a complex unity. As weird as it is, you can think of this as wife, okay, or woman, okay, and you can think of this as man, or husband. Husband. Okay. In Hebrew, it doesn't matter. It's the same word. And you can think of this right here as master. Or if that is offensive to your Western sensibilities, you could just say king, melech. Okay. So God is not ashamed of our process, and He planned it. Remember, this picture of what God is trying to do in the world. God wants to meet with us, but what is He trying to do? God is the one who descends down to us and wants to grab our hand and pull us up to His level. He's not throwing shit down at us and barring the way to Him. He's not trying to keep enforced His fixed position separated from us. You might say, well, okay, great, who cares? That's the opposite of Enuma Elish, one of the competing ancient Semitic stories. Okay? It goes against a lot of the myth, a lot of the religion that people present. They present God as though He is aloof, He is transcendent in the sense that He is untouchable, unknowable, all this. This is not how God presents Himself. God desires for us to bear His image and turn into Him. That sounds strange. It doesn't mean, it's not quite theosis. It doesn't mean theosis. Okay? So it's not like the idea that you become a God. That's not what He is saying. But the metaphor is something like the ocean at the top. The ocean at the top comes down to us, that's the drop, kind of, and he wants us to ascend with him. And as we ascend, we increase in glory. We don't decrease in glory. And then we become an ocean next to an ocean at the top. Instead of, I'm a drop that I get shed until I get absorbed into the ocean that is God. So one of the things I think that's helpful is trying to understand ourselves as a complex unity, understanding God as a complex unity, and understanding ourselves as a reflection of God's unity in a story form within time. Okay? See, the clock gets set. The sun goes up, the sun goes down, and without our permission, we're caught in these movements. Okay? This world. It doesn't matter if the first story, if the foundation got fucked up for you. Okay? If the first story got fucked up for you, you don't get to press fucking pause before the second story gets built on that, and the third story gets built on that, right? Like a fun question to ask people is, okay, so I build a house, the foundation's really fucked up and it's skewed. Is it going to make it better if I build a second story? Well, how about a third? I'll just add on a fourth. Right? How old are you, Joshe?
33.
So I'll just add on a 33rd story. And then it'll be better, right? No. This stuff doesn't just go away. The same way that even though you're in a note, you feel like your nose is going to bleed at the 33rd story, okay? It's still that same fucking, just because you don't remember the building of the first story doesn't mean it didn't dictate the 33rd story, okay? So I want to now try to explain these phenomena a little bit more and then explain sin. So think of it like just sensation. And this is the problem with the mound, but think of it like a growing capacity or something, or growing medium, more complicated mediums, from sensation to feeling, which is like pain or pleasure. The child here is important. So pain or pleasure is the area of the gut, which correlates to the courtyard. Okay? A question would be this, is, well, why does God not let all the Israelites go in? And we might get offended at that thought if we don't understand that this is a picture of the image of God. I'll give you an example. Right now, because Abby is metaphorically, Abby's like all gut right now, where she is, okay? When Joe meets her where she is, Joe goes gut to gut with Abby, okay? But that's like Daddy playing with Abby. There's still more Daddy for Abby to discover. She just can't grab hold of it yet. Okay? God's idea of having a priesthood, one of the things that's prophesied, Moses prophesies it in Numbers 11, it's alluded to in Exodus 18, would be that all of God's people would eventually become priests, that all of God's people would be brought. That is the aim. Okay? And so, Abby doesn't get all of Dad there in that space or at this stage. Doesn't mean there's not more Dad for Abby. Okay? And so when Abby steps up, i.e. matures or ascends into that higher space, she gets more of Dad. Okay? It has to do with, it's like access and capacity get linked. Okay? That's one way to think of it. And so what I just want to derive, just for a moment, I want to give an aside and excursus and say, for this reason, we should not be impatient with ourselves or embarrassed that things take time or think that something is broken. Okay, God delights in this journey. He delights in this process. Okay, of shit, the same way that Joe isn't like look at how sweet she is. He's not like, why aren't you fucking doing calculus yet? Right? That's not his heart. Same way it's not God's heart towards us. So we then move toward this idea of, you could say it's like, it's like this is the heart. Okay, thoughts and intentions. This is where the inner identity, the inner person, the person that is hidden. There's like an inner identity that's being formed. Right now, and I'm not trying to be mean, but at this stage, one of the reasons that typifies this stage is this is the foundation of friendship. Abby can't be a friend right now, partly because someone who is a friend with everyone is a friend with no one. Okay, the definition of friendship speaks to an internal space that's set aside with special access. Little ones, they don't have that category. So they're a great example for that. There's like, everybody's my friend, which means no one's my friend. Okay, because there's not a special part of me that is shared or an identity that I have to give and allow access into. Okay? And what happens here, this is where relationship becomes possible and begins to be built. Which is why it's correlated with wife or woman. Okay? They are stronger. This is helpful to say, well, this is an interesting answer. I'm not demanding it of people, but this is an interesting answer to the puzzle. How is it that man and woman are the image of God? Okay. And Adam himself is the image of God, and Eve herself is the image of God, but do they have to be married to be the image of God? Or unmarried people not the whole image of God? Weird questions like this. And one way to answer that is to say, an individual human is a complex unity. Okay? And they would bear this image in part in themselves, and in the external, or in probably somewhere like at this stage, the joining of this stage, what we call female and what we call male peculiarly has configuration or help in some of these faculties or areas or whatever, or expressions. But thoughts and intentions are the medium of the heart. Okay? And then we move on to the mind, plans and judgment. Okay, now here's how sin works. I want somebody to tell me the tribe Korach is from. You will help me if you will do that. If you'll go to number 16 and tell me the tribe Korach is from.
That was from Levi.
I said tribe. I'm so sorry. Yes, Levi. The clan. The clan he is from. What is the clan he is from?
Number 16.
Yep. It should tell you.
Son of Issachar, son of Levi, Dathan, sons. The descendants of Reuben.
It'll speak about who has to carry. It's in Numbers, and it will determine who gets to carry things, who gets to put them away, who gets to set them up, it's where they divide up the jobs of the Levitical clans. We'll let it be an extra credit question for now. Here's the point, and I can teach it without knowing I can't remember the exact name. I don't know if it's a Mushite or if it's a Kohathite. I don't know if it's either way. Yeah, you could go to genealogy and look at the sons if you said the sons of Levi.
Issachar, which is Kohathite.
Kohathite, so maybe he's a Kohathite. Okay, Korach, Kohathite. Okay, so here's what I want you to imagine, okay?
You had to get to verse 57 for that.
It's in Exodus 6, too.
Awesome. Okay, so imagine that the heart is the tent, right? The heart is the tent. We're all familiar with the tent, God's tent. The priests can go inside. The Levites cannot, okay? The priests are Levites, but it's like saying only horses can go into the tent. All horses are mammals, but not all mammals are horses. So mammals can have full reign in the courtyard, but only horses can go in the tent. Levites have full reign of the courtyard, but only the sons of Aaron can go into the tent. Okay? Now, there were different jobs for the Levitical clans outside of the sons of Aaron. I think 3 separate duties primarily. It was divided into 3. So let's do this right here to draw them. It's blue. Let's say this. Let's say this is that lower duty Levitical clan, that middle duty Levitical clan, and the highest duty, like right at the entrance of the tent, Levitical clan. This guy is Korah. Okay, or Korah. That's where he is. He's right at the tent, but he can't go in. Now, from the standpoint of the Gentiles, what a coveted position. From the standpoint of lepers who dwell here, because lepers aren't allowed in, they're like in this fuzzy middle ground. Are they Gentiles or are they Israelites? Okay? Lepers are like, God, what a blessing to be able to be there. Right? Some dude, Yishachar over here is like, oh shit, man. You know, and then we've got Judah on the east. He's like right at the edge, and he's like, oh man, how cool it is to be right there. Okay, and we go all the way down. In Korah, what does he say? He tells a lie. What Korah does is what the serpent does is how all sin works. And I'm trying to break this down into I want to break down sin as a configuration or a mechanism. I want to talk about how it works more bird's eye view generically. So what Korach says to the people is, hey, all of you we are all holy. He doesn't say to the Gentiles, but he says to those beneath him, you are holy. We're all holy. We should all be able to be priests. It is true that they're all holy. Okay? But what he hides from them behind his back, the real lie, the heart of the lie is this. What he's actually saying to them is, oh, once you've been to me, you've already seen everything there is to see. You might as well. There is no step 7. There is no Holy of Holies. You've seen me? You've been to where I am? You've seen it. Right? What he's doing by collapsing the steps that are above, it's arrogance. It's self-exaltation. He is trying to flatten out the steps. No more ascension, no more hierarchy. He is saying, I am step 7. That's what Hasatan does. One of the coolest things I've learned in the last few weeks is when I study this, in studying Isaiah primarily, in studying the correlation between the Nachash, the Cheruvim, and the Seraphim, these flaming serpent figures, I've come to agree with, I used to disagree with Michael Heiser, I agree with Michael Heiser now, that Satan is just a basic bitch throne guardian seraph. Mm-hmm. Not, okay, because we have a lot of mythos in Christian tradition. He was the most beautiful creation God ever made, and they named him Lucifer and all. None of that's in Scripture. None of that's even in extra biblical Jewish tradition. It's like there are these added components. He is Korach. He wants to be El Elyon. He wants to be the one who sits on the ark. Okay? Sin is a hierarchy disorder.
This is just interestingly, sorry, for point of context. Korah is a Kohathite. Kohathites are responsible for the components, like the furniture of the holy place, which is like satanic too, because it's like he uncovers the nakedness of of what should rightly be covered.
Exactly. So Kohathites would be allowed to put shit in their places to a degree they can't see it. They're not supposed to uncover it. It has manatee skin, like a bunch of shit wrapped around it. And what he wants to do is, I should see it. I carry it. I'm right there. I can smell it. But I'm not allowed to see it. I arrange it, but I can't see it. I want to uncover the nakedness of it. That's exactly right. That's a really good insight, Joe. And this happens to humans when we sin. So watch what ends up happening. And this is a really cool thing that's an aside. I told Joe Shay this. I'm going to see if I can teach this in, look at the time. I'm going to see if I can teach it in 2 minutes or less. The ark is a symbol of reality itself. So it does the opposite of reality. The ark is the inside-out version of reality. The ark is the inside-out version of reality. The higher level of heaven is invisible to us in our standpoint now. And what we see is apparent. The ark takes the heavenly reality and shows you it. The box, which is the container, with the heavenly beings there, visible. And what is hidden in the ark is our testimony, that which was seen and heard.
Is that kind of like you'll know the beginning from the end?
Yes, because inside of the ark, that's why it's called the Ark of the Testimony. It has these 3 elements. It has clothing or covering for ascension. It has food, and it has a leader or a conductor, a meal conductor. Okay? But they are hidden. That's the opposite of testimony. But every one of these things are testimony. If you go back to Exodus 16 for the jar of manna, set this thing, and there's a testimony to them that I provided for them. They saw it with their own eyes. Okay? Set inside this ark this rod that you all saw bud. You saw it with your own eyes. Set inside this rock these stone tablets I gave you. I made with my finger. Okay? The ark is the opposite. Because the thing that we see and know as testimony is hidden, and it turns the invisible visible. We see the invisible reality outside the ark. Okay? So, and here's what it's saying. The invisible is enthroned on testimony. So here's what I want to do. When shalom is achieved, testimony is able to be passed from here to 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 here, and then it passes back down to here to here to here to here to here to here. Uninhibited, free flowing. That's what shalom is. That's what perfection is. Okay? No blockade. Free flowing. A free flowing exchange is peace or shalom. Okay? Here's how sin works. It flattens out other the higher steps, or it inverts their role and perverts their role. Let me give you an example. And I'm not naming names because I'm recording this. I'm gonna put it on YouTube. But you take a child at this stage and you inflict pain on them and you make them afraid, okay? And you abuse them and you increase their awareness of pain at this age, okay? You can get all kinds of things. What you end up doing is this. There's pain or pleasure. Fear, for now, I'm going to define fear as the avoidance of pain for now. Okay, it really is typically, it's strategies associated with avoiding harm or destructive forces, but pain for now is sufficient. We are used to hearing these two this rhyming couplet, fight and flight. These are from fear, which comes from pain. But you also have these other ones that I just learned from a friend, okay, Sam Samus. She said this was like really cool. She said freeze or appease. Those are also strategies for fear. What do I do with fear? Okay? When all you do is you hurt and you harm and you inflict pain on someone at this stage. What ends up happening is when they adopt one of these four, to the degree that they felt pain, or all of them, they can adopt all of them, they end up sealing off right here. There becomes a hard seal, a block. And it creates a hierarchy disorder. It's like a block that ends up being built here. And out of that pain and fear, they declare rulership over these other properties, even though they'll grow up. And these other properties will start to form. These other things will start to form in them. They will not pass testimony to them. And they will then make the heart and the mind their gophers and their bitches. So these higher order faculties that are supposed to be used to bear the image of God become enslaved to this lower order faculty. Metaphorically, because we're using words like child and wife and husband. Who's ever been out to eat and you've got like a toddler who's the fucking tyrant at the table? And mom and dad just capitulate to him and they do. We're all like, what a silly, that's so stupid. Sort that out. That's you when you sin. That's you. You're the man. Right? So we're supposed to get testimony and pass it. All because we're supposed to be Beit El. We're supposed to be a God house. We get the testimony and we pass it and hand it to the one who dwells within. He then reveals. He gives the hidden reality. He reveals that to us. We then take his judgment. We take that. We agree with his judgment and make plans and we pass this down and make decisions. Okay? People whose gut rules them, okay, they end up not being, because of the pain that was inflicted, they end up having shallow, because their heart is never given the chance to lift and do its job. They end up having shallow, fake relationships. So they end up being deceptive, and they have like an imposter syndrome. It's going to lead to imposter syndrome regardless, but they end up having fake, shallow relationships, so they struggle in relationships. Okay? They feign the mind, okay, but all it ends up doing is it ends up becoming this sad, weird little slave that just concocts devices for their fears. Okay? This is the life of, as a metaphor, this is the life of a chronic addict. Mm-hmm. A perpetual child. Right? One that can't grow out of it. Right? And it comes from pain. Yeah.
Is there any significance with like, basically can you have a Korah at each step?
Yeah.
Or is there any like particular significance?
No, you could. You technically could. You could. I find, okay, so you could. And one thing that could end up happening is you could have somebody who has, there's all kinds of hierarchy disorders that can take place. And to be honest, it really has to do, because perfection is about each part in their right place, anytime these parts get put in the wrong place, technically it is a hierarchy disorder, but that's how it works. You could have someone that they disassociate from their gut. Okay? And that's a strategy. And so they make their mind the be-all, end-all type of deal. All right? And they end up, I think sometimes this is where people end up struggling with empathy. They end up struggling with being able to even think about what another person is wrestling with, this kind of thing. It's just a strategy. It's a configuration that people opt for depending on the pain and the circumstance. Now, here's the thing I don't like. I'm just being upfront. I know this sounds like, it really does. It sounds like a lot of psychologizing and bullshit, but everything I've said I can correlate to passages in the Torah, and I'm okay. I'm willing to be like, dude, I'm Scuttle from The Little Mermaid. I don't know shit, okay? Like, God's going to show us this. I know in part, right? But what I want, one of the things I want to give, one of the reasons I want to give this way, one of the reasons I think it's so effective is, this isn't psychologizing, because I haven't told you the plan of action. So my thing depends on an alien zombie Jew possessing you and passing unknown information through prophecy to the other parts from the top down, okay? And my view depends not on talk. So psychologizing will tell people, yeah, look at first off, they don't divide humans this way. But they'll have some kind of division of humans, and then they'll say, go back to your past and look at it, and then just blame these people. And let's just talk about it for hours and blame people. And then somehow that makes you feel better through catharsis, and we don't do anything, and and then go talk to those people that you feel like should be blamed. And then maybe you guys talking with each other for hours about how they should be blamed will make you feel numb enough to just hopefully let it go. Or I can give you these steps so that you can actually be numb, or this medicine so that you really can be numb in these ways and hopefully move on and forget it. None of that is healing. So if we are a building, none of it repairs. This is why in Hebrew, these roots, the root shalom, becomes a synonym, depending on the context. The root shalom is a synonym, okay, of the root rapha, or heal. This is in one of our famous verses where Isaiah 53, which one is this? It's 53 verse 4, I think. No, it's verse 5. Musar shalamenu. The discipline of our peace was on him. Musar shalamenu alaf. Uvachavurato, and in his bruises or stripes, near palana, we are healed. The couplet there is taking these two roots and saying that our perfection, first off, doesn't that just sound stupid in English? The discipline of our peace. When's the last time you used that construction in a conversation? Okay? It means the prescription for our healing. Okay? Then it's the same fucking thing. And it is still wonky that through his wounds I am healed. Okay? But the word is prescription, not discipline. And we already know that if you read Isaiah 29, because that's how he likes to use that word, misar. Because in Isaiah 29 it says, God punishes the farmer so that they know how to plant the field. No. It says he instructs the farmer so he knows that. The word instruct is misar. Same word. It's being translated punish or discipline by people in Isaiah. Okay, so, but this is what healing is. Healing is a rebuilding. A rebuilding. God is in order to rearrange people, they have to literally, like a house can't rearrange itself. Arms that are crippled can't hold the staff up. Okay? People need to be healed. They need healing. Messiah still heals. Messiah still heals people. He heals the most important things, so of course he'll heal lesser things. Yes, I believe Messiah still heals members.